Okay, welcome to the July 4th, 2025 Node API team meeting. And I'm going to share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Um, let's see if there's anything new in the down column.
I think we can move my um, promise PR to done. I saw
Yeah,
you merged it today. Oh, okay, cool.
yeah, it's automatic. So once
Oh,
it's
yeah.
merged or closed, it'll be automatically moved to down.
Okay, thanks.
Cool, nice work. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, congrats. That's
Yeah,
good.
first one.
Congratulations. And yeah, thank you for your work.
You did warnings before. It was, I think, the second, right?
Oh, yeah, the second. The first one was on the main node project, but this was like the first one on node.js on API project.
Yeah.
Yeah, second one. Yeah, sure.
Anyway, thank you for your work. That's great.
Yeah, same.
Mm, let's see. Do we have anything to talk about in the has progress column?
No, I didn't make any progress on my items.
Yeah, no worries.
Still focusing on this Hermes stuff. It's probably will be my focus for next month or so, like so before I can
Yeah,
make some progress here.
no worries. That'll be great. And let's see if we have any progress on the progress. Uh, the first one is, I think this was talked about, and it should be a documentation issue. And I don't think there are any progresses on this. And yeah, this one we just mentioned about. And see what's on this one. I'm not sure if it's this one is ready for review. The title says it's working
Yeah,
in
my
progress.
feedback on this PR was mostly about kind of we have some coding conventions inside of node.js. Like for example, uh, I believe we have conventions around enum values and stuff. And I mean, probably like functionality wise, it's a good PR. Just small kind of fit and finish changes we need to do. Like for example, with enums, they in this PR like all uppercase, and we want to have like start like in the 8 project, we want to start with K, and for like it's all small things. It's just and also we prefer to use enum class instead of just enum, kind of as
Yeah,
a
sure.
modern C++. So technically, it's uh, probably just developer doesn't have time to look at it.
Yeah, and the tests are fading and it's expired. So we cannot see what's happening. But anyway, I think this might need more work.
Yeah, we need to kind of see like what we want to do there with PR at some point.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't look at it yet.
Yeah.
Just let's see, functional threads environment.
This one was Rust. The Rust one. I think it will take some time to set up the Rust environment to test it.
I guess like issue is like I think like last time we discussed, if, as far as I remember, we want to make sure that we have uh, we're handling in our code in Node API, we're handling worker threads the same way as main thread.
I think
Since I'm
that's
kind of doing this,
a yeah. Please
go,
go ahead.
go ahead. Sorry, what you were saying.
No, I was confused with another issue.
Right. If maybe it's Rust specific, but we just I want to make sure that we on our end, like in node.js, we handled correctly. So
Yeah,
I probably don't want to spend much time with Rust. I know zero about Rust yet, but just to kind of show example that at least on Node API side, we kind of handled correctly. Was my goal here.
yeah, sure. Okay, yeah,
And also, wait, it actually says like issues Node 18 and says like Node 20 and 22 works fine if you scroll up a bit. So Node 18 is out of support.
yeah. But I
Okay.
think it might be. Let's see. Yeah, not any support. Um, but if it's working in 2022, we can mark it as fix. If that's the case.
Right. Looks question like I can still check, but thankfully his author says like it works in other versions, like 19 is out of support. So a recommendation could be just switching to new version.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay. Great. We can check again to see if it's been fixed in 2022, and if so, we can close it as one fix.
Okay.
If it's only reproducible on 18.
Okay. Well, but, yeah, let me kind of just kind of maybe add additional test or something if required.
Yeah,
And
sure. That'll be great. And version 11. I think if we want to promote the version 11, this one was kind of relevant because it says it's relevant to the finalizer issue. And before we want to release another API version 11, we need to make sure that the this issue should be closed. Either we say that it's not reproducible on 20 and 22 and we close it. Either we want to add more tests. I think both ways are great.
okay. And do you think like in 11 we can do our finalization finally?
Um, so what do you mean by our
Yeah,
organization?
like this new way how we do finalizers, like pure finalizers. And we have this experimental for last probably 2 years already.
Yeah, I think so. I think the last time that we bumped version 10, we said that the finalizers was released not long time ago, but for 11, I think it's a good time to promote finalizer related changes.
It will be
Yeah.
really exciting.
Yeah, it's really good work. Thank you for your work on it.
Mhm.
Cool.
And the only thing like I have like I recently had to implement the same API on Hermes side. What I noticed that if you look on this Node API post finalizer, I somehow like switched order of some parameters. components, and then we do some other finalizers. I just want us to look at it one more time, and if it's something we want to go with.
Second. I'm sorry,
Oh,
what were you always saying?
uh, I think like if just to close on this topic, like we definitely we may want to consider this float 16 arrays as well for. Oh, actually, maybe it's too early, right?
I think for one API to be promoted to stable, it has to be available on all LTS versions. So the float 16 array buffer has to be backported to 20 and 22. So for it to be backported, it has to be on the main branch for at least 2 weeks.
Right,
So I think we are not in a hurry to promote version 11, and we can wait for another month
right.
um, to wait until the float 16 buffer to be mature enough. So um, yeah,
Uh, what I was saying before about this finalizer API, if we can open a source code and look at Node API post finalizer, which is a new experimental function we have. I just want I will just noticed that I was implementing it for Hermes code that order parameters a bit different compared with other cases. Like you see, uh, I guess like what I was thinking, like the key thing was actually we would like to kind of have finalizer. This finalizer callback parameter comes first. There's like finalized data and hint comes after because technically, even with data and hint is the way I was thinking. If they null, maybe oh no, because it can't be null. But if you look on any other places, we typically have finalized data going before callback. So there is kind of I don't know, it's
yeah,
what
having
was
this
exactly
one.
thinking, but technically order right now is different. And my question to the team, do we want to switch them or not?
Well, to be honest, I'm not like I'm not really concerned about the order too much. Like for the other variants of finalized APIs, the reason that the data comes before the finalized callback is that the data are more relevant to the API itself. Like for example, this data is the essential data for the external object.
Mhm.
Otherwise, this API is kind of nonsense. But for the post finalized, I think people can potentially use it as a way to defer the callback. Well, people can argue that the data might also be important here, but I mean, I'm not super concerned about this particular case. I mean, it'll be great if we have this aligned order at the first place, but at this point, I think I'm not I'm not convinced that we should make the change because people might already be adopting it.
Okay,
But yeah,
let's forget about it. It's just something that kind of popped up on my, it's like, oh, WTF. I don't know what what exactly I was thinking when I was doing this way, but yeah. I hope it's not big deal, honestly. Like it's people can always like I mean I don't see like any scenarios besides just being a little bit little bit confusion. I don't think about any scenarios that it produce real issues actually. This order of parameters.
Yeah, I'm not worried too much.
So sorry, I have to let my cat out.
Yeah, no worries. I think it's a good point that um we should keep an eye on the parameter orders in the new API reviews. Thanks for bringing this up. And let's see if there are any issues.
I'm back.
Yeah, I was saying that thanks for bringing this up. We should probably keep an eye on the new APIs being added and keep an eye on their parameter orders. But I'm not super convinced that we should make the change on this one.
Okay. Okay, let's keep it. Just hopefully it's not a big deal.
Yeah, sure.
But I guess like overall functionality will be so beneficial to developers because technically people will be able to release kind of finalized objects immediately if they don't touch uh, any JavaScript and stuff. And I think like, it will be kind of good segue at some point to this fast API. So fast API also kind of not cannot cannot call to any JavaScript as far as I know. Like so technically we can apply the same learnings, I guess, at some point.
Yeah, great.
Cool. Let's go next.
Um, I think we mentioned this one. Anything in particular that people had to bring up before we jump to other issues?
No.
Yeah. Let's take a look on the to-do. I had a brief look into this one, and I think it might be it is an issue in Node core. And the good thing is that the instance data finalizers are working as expected in work threads. That means it would not be a super concerning memory leak if people are using add-ons with instance data in work threads, because work threads can be allocated and destroyed multiple times in a single process. But I think the broken one is that the finalizer of the instance data are not invoked for the main thread, which means um, it's really hard to say if it's a bug or working as expected, because like if people call process.exit, there no finalizer will be invoked before the process actually exits. So I think it's kind of in the similar situation where the process wants to exit as quick as possible. So it will try not to invoking any user callbacks in this case. But as you can see that if process running to an end um, as normal, as no exceptions like this one, the finalizers are still being invoked. So I think I need more thoughts on this one. Like if we really want to invoke user callbacks when the process would like to exit as quickly as possible.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting problem, right? Because from
Yeah.
one hand, like this callback may call some important kind of resource cleanup thingies, right? Like,
Well, I'm not sure because like the process is it's only happening on the main thread. That's the most important part because if we people are relying on the finalizer to collect to reclaim important resources like in a work thread, I think that if the finalizer is not being invoked, that will be a big issue. But this is only reproducible on the main thread, which means if there will be only one instance that will not be reclaimed, which is to me, I think it's not a really big issue. And if it's relying on the external resources that outside the process, I think there are more approaches to deal with that. It should not relying on the finalizer callback being invoked to reclaim external resources that's outside the process. So once the process exits, all the memory resources should not be an issue anyway, because the process will be reclaimed by the operating system. So that's the thing that I'm wondering that is it really worthwhile to invoke the finalizer in this case?
I don't know, it's a good question. But technically, I just for me to understand, so technically we throw an exception, this uncaught exception. So at this point we don't call this finalizer. But what if we handle this exception and or we can't handle it and continue anymore if it's main?
Yeah, we can handle and continue the process. But I mean, if you didn't handle the exception and let node.js handle the exception as the default way, the finalizer will not be invoked. It's just as same as if you invoke process.exit
Mhm.
explicitly, and in that case, finalizers will not be invoked as well because we will try to exit as quick as possible if you invoke process.exit.
And do we have any kind of other precedents inside of node.js, like say for non-node API modules, do we call any kind of finalizers there or something like
Well, if it's not Node API, I mean the API stable one, like the C++ Viet API,
mhm.
um, even in the normal exit, I mean no exception scenario, Viet will not invoke finalizers because the whole um, memory blocks are going to be reclaimed by the with the process altogether. So Viet decides that it's not really important to invoke embedders, finalizers when the process is going to exit. So, but we, I think the difference between VH finalizer and Node.js finalizer is that when the process run into an end without any exceptions, Node API will try to invoke finalizers at the cleaning up process, at the cleaning up, but VA will not.
I see. So should we just respond to here that about these findings and
Need more investigation on this because yeah, I just had a brief look into the issue here, so I need to look more into the implementation to be for sure.
okay, it's a good finding. Like it's a good point. Because technically, if exception causing us to close this process anyway, like so do we need to even run this stuff? It was exactly my question last time, but I can foresee like even Windows, if we have any application effectively crashing,
Yeah,
uh, we typically don't run any kind of cleanup at
yeah,
this point.
exactly. I think the motivation behind that is trying to um keep the process at the state where the crash happens as much as possible, so that we can investigate into that.
Right. I know that
But
in
yeah,
Microsoft, we
please go
typically
ahead.
collect some dumps, which we can then later can investigate and fix bugs in our applications. If application goes forward, we kind of losing context. We can't really fix it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also
Yeah.
possible that in the finalizer it triggers another bigger issue. I mean, it's already in error state, so it could also trigger another issue. So that would be more problematic.
Right. Okay, let's think about it a little bit more. But it's a great finding. It's thank you. It's good.
That's a good
Yeah,
one.
yeah, because the one point that I'm hesitant about is that we do invoke the finalizers when the work thread exits, even they have on-call exceptions. So I think the question remains that should we do the same for the main thread?
So if we have an uncaught exception on a worker thread,
Yeah.
does it crash process in the end, or it
No,
just
it will only cache the work thread and it will report an error event to the main thread with the worker's error event. It's like the
But
workers.
on that case, it will run all the callbacks and cleaning stuff for
Yeah, it
the
will
work.
invoke the finalizers before this exit event. It's like you can see that if in workers case, if it invokes process exit or it crashes due to uncalled exceptions, I mean it's not crash, but if it exits with uncalled exception, this event will be invoked and all the finalizers will be invoked for this particular work.
but for the main process, like we don't do it because technically maybe it's what we used to have. Maybe there's some kind of compatibility issue with some previous behavior of node.js. It's I don't know how it's important. I remember like you did some changes around uh, exception handling a
Well,
couple of years ago.
I would
And
say that it's more about how do we view the process exit API. Like in the worker, the process exit does not exit the whole process, obviously. But if you invoke this API in the main thread, it will exit the program, exit the process immediately without invoking any other codes. Well, I mean, there will be some event emitters, but it will emit as quickly as possible.
mm, so this case like main thread is like very special.
Yeah. No, it's not special. I mean, we only have two cases, like the worker and the main thread. So it's just that they are different.
Right, right.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take into more look into this
Okay.
and clarify the issue. Anything in particular that the people would like to bring up first before we jump to other issues?
Yeah.
Yeah, Kevin said he took a look on this and he, so yeah. Given that Kevin is looking at this one, I think I will defer to Kevin to come to the meeting next time. And let's see if there are any new issues.
Yeah, we worked on it a long time ago. I did some experimentation. I think the thing was they like in order to enable it, we need to change the V8 API. We need to add new V8 API,
Um,
and I didn't follow up there.
to be honest, I think I recall that there's a Vim API that can create plain objects with multiple properties.
It does, but it does it differently. This V8 API creates some kind of hash table, and the
Yeah.
point of a developer, sorry, like this original author of this issue was making that there is some kind of internal APIs that a V8 uses to create um, objects which extremely optimized for the way how they handle internal classes. And I did some experimentation around it, and we saw like, yes, if we can follow the same pattern, we can do kind of quite efficient object creation. The point is actually, you see like how V8 internally creates classes. You have, for example, one property, it creates one class. You add in another property, it creates like another class, and so on. But next time you're doing exactly the same, if you follow exactly the same pattern, it can just simplify an exactly the same class. It does not create internal class anymore, and it can be extremely fast after that. And the way we're creating it today, we don't our way that does not using some kind of optimized way of creation. I don't remember all details, sorry. But the APIs are giving us, like what you just shown, it does not use it. It actually creates some completely different approach. Instead, not it does not create this internal kind of classes with properties and stuff. It just creates this hash table. Maybe this approach pretty fast and you have a lot of properties. But if you have situation where you have, say, two, three properties, like maybe some situations people doing, say, for 3D graphics or something like this, this hash table approach will be much more inefficient. So we probably just need to kind of try to do it like again. This I was using effectively internal API. So technically, if we're just using V8 internal namespace, we can achieve this kind of improvement. The issue is like this API is not part of the public API. So change it relatively simple in the end, like just simply kind of expose some of these internal APIs, make it kind of public API.
Even though we cannot use like Vim template to do this, I think we can do it with this Vim API, which could be uncompromised, but I think it's still being faster than creating an object and assigning multiple properties to it one by one. It's like API takes a list of name and a list of values in correspondence to the names, of course. And Vim handles the how to create this object efficiently.
Actually, it's what I'm saying. Like my measurements, the way they were doing there like 3 years ago, were not good. But I think your point is actually if we use this API and then we optimize implementation of this API on the V8 side, we can achieve it. Is what you were saying?
Um, We're saying that this API's performance is not as good as well.
For small number of properties is not performed because internally this API, at least 3 years ago, it was using hash table.
Yeah.
So instead of using this kind of approach that have create all these internal classes and stuff, it does it completely differently. And this lookup and hash table is a little bit more expensive because thankfully, if you think about all these internal classes, it's more like a struct, right? Like access it's just by offset, it's extremely fast. Whereas then you have like a full hash table. This lookup requires a bit more, and in the end, it actually not so efficient. But you're
So
right, like we can at least start using this API and then kind of work with the A team, say like if say like your number of properties less than say 8, let's use different approach, use this internal classes instead of hash table. It can be good approach. So in this case, we don't need additional V8 API, but we rather kind of submit PR to V8, improving existing API, which also would benefit everyone.
yeah, in Node.js we use this API a lot to create some similar API objects. So I think if we can expose a Node API similar like this one and then improve it inside Vid, that would be also great.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you
Let's do this
mentioned this one, right?
simple step, and then yeah. But thankfully, this new API I was kind of looking for, it was the shape of this API will be exactly the same, right? So thankfully,
Yeah, I think so.
we would not invent anything there.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
well,
that
let's do it,
cool.
and we can close this long-standing matter.
Yeah,
And it's good that the thing like this API would mimic what thankfully JavaScript object creation has. Like I think like object in JavaScript itself, there is a special case, and you create bulk of properties as long as they're not methods, and so it's just simple properties. So there is some kind of a special API for that.
yeah.
So if any other implementation, any other JavaScript engine has to support this technique, this should be easy for them to implement this new Node
Well,
API.
yeah, even if they don't, I think it's quite straightforward to implement this with the primitive one, like create an object and assign every property onto it. It's like a well, it's more like an optimization.
Right. Yeah, good discussion. Thanks.
Cool. Thank you. Um, I think before we jump to any others, we should probably look at this one. This is about adding the float 16 array support in Node API, which the float 16 array was added to the language in the, I think it's kind of new.
I saw the author submitted today morning. I just didn't look into detail. I just saw email fix for unit test. We may want to probably check if test right now for Python. I
Well,
understand that float 16 array was introduced quite recently. I was trying
yeah,
to,
right.
and it was like uh, it became like a stage 4, I believe, in March or something this year. It's relatively fresh, but it seems like a lot of JavaScript engines and browsers already supported.
I think the one thing that concerns me is that you only support after Node.js 24. So the we have to The it seems like this will not be able to be backported.
Yeah, because it's only supporting the latest V8 engine because thankfully it became standard a couple of months ago, a few months ago. And our previous versions of node.js have some dependency on previous versions of V8 which don't have this support.
Yeah. So let me check.
Honestly, I was trying to understand what this float 16 is about. Like, I understand it has some kind of usefulness for different AI scenarios, if you will, just because it can pack much more floating data in the same array. But otherwise, just using it, it's not so efficient. Um,
I'm not sure how it will be used in the user end. The original issue only mentioned that we have float 16 array supported in Node.js. Let's add it in Node API. But I mean, yeah, I'm not sure about how users will use it.
yeah, it's what kind of interesting to kind I didn't spend much time on it trying to kind of learn what exactly how it can be used. I don't even know like if C++ currently supports float 16. I know that Rust probably supports it, but
Yeah. Well, anyway, I think for this to be landed, it'll at least need to add the feature detection macro and to be guarded with anywhere experimental.
I did
And
not change today morning. Maybe it's already done. Like I just sorry I didn't check what
yeah,
was
no
done.
worries. I think, yeah, it's,
Yeah, I can see this feature already there. Like this feature stuff.
yeah.
So technically, it's maybe already in good shape. We just need to look at it again, and probably it's
I
already if
think
that's already passing. And
the only concern is that Anna is opposing to add runtime checks.
uh, I don't know. Like it's, if we don't have this runtime check, I believe we can have a lot of issues, potentially issues. We may not see all of them, but if we have this check, it's easy to check, and it's very easy to kind of expect some predictable behavior, especially some transitional phase, like until other implementations have it or not have it.
Um, I mean, if the add-on is an um, using an API type array type that's not being declared in the Node API, it's basically an undefined behavior, and they can get what they want at runtime. They will not get what they want at runtime. So I think that's why I said that I'm not super concerned that if we should add a runtime check.
You see, like there are some situations many times I've been myself. Like I'm creating some APIs, I'm giving to developers in Microsoft, right? Like people start to
Yeah.
use it. I think like they're using it the right way, and I have like often have some maybe some helper classes, some internal implementations, and then at some point I need to change some of them. I find that people have all these dependencies they're not supposed to have. Like imagine that even somebody does not use experimental version, but they suddenly start to depend on this. kind of this new enum behavior. And if we decide to kind of, in the end of this experimental phase, we decide to go one way, another way, or maybe do some changes, we may find ourselves in some situation that even this behavior is supposed to be experimental, but people already rely it as a production behavior, something like this. I know I can't invent all different things which can go wrong. I just believe like it's better to be safe than sorry. Uh,
Well,
I know it looks a little bit weird, but I think if we just follow the book saying like this experimental behavior, we kind of guard any experimental behavior with version behavior. And so in this case, like even in the end, we decide, say, not to adopt certain things. So it will be much easier to retract if it was all properly guarded. But it will be not so easy to retract if it's not properly guarded.
well, to be honest, I think I'm more concerned about this one. Like, if the JavaScript passes a float 16 array to the add-on, and the add-on use this AMPI get a tabular info for an in add-on that their version is prior to like AMPI node version 10, AMPI version 10, they will get a unpredicted enum value in this case.
I agree about this case as well. Like I believe I agree with you here. Like we should also do the same stuff. Until we support it, we should not return some invalid values. Like we must be very strict about it.
But I'm not sure if what we can do here as like we cannot throw can we throw an error here?
We just return like some invalid or something, some error state, right? So what idea that will be it will be exactly the same behavior as today. So technically, if people say using today float 16 array, it's not being recognized, and we return in some probably error code or something. What happens if if none of its else if works? Could you scroll down a bit?
There's no default fallback here.
Ooh, ah, uh, not good. So people are receiving some random. They can receive a million or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to fix it.
All right. But I'm not sure if we should push the push the runtime check in the create tabular array here. Like we can continue the discussion on the pull request. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for the review on it. This 3 hours route 16 array.
And there is duplicate PR created. So what?
Yeah, we'll leave it open. Yeah, I'll leave it to the author to decide if they want to close it.
Okay. It's a little bit strange situation. I've been in this situation exactly same. Like I created one pull request, and as developer created exactly the same one. And,
Well, usually we will prefer the one that's open first because apparently otherwise it will be a mess. Unless the two pull requests took significantly different approaches to implement, and we prefer the approach that's in the latter one, that would be a different case. But for this case, the two progress do not differ too much. So I would say that let's do it in the first progress.
Right. It's a relatively simple one. It's great to see that
Yeah,
new developers jumping in and starting contributing. I think it's a great thing.
yeah. I think this has a pull request. See what this one. I think we are still waiting on the test case. And I'll move it to the in progress. This has a pull request. And this is in progress.
The last one about the shore release, how is typically done?
Sorry?
How it is like typically merged. We just check the file changes and
Yeah, the release in this repository is automatic, and once this focus lands, it will release automatically. So what we do is please take a look on this one, on this focus, and let's see if there are any other issues. I think so. Yeah, we can probably release a small version, and
cool.
please take a look at this. And if we got another review, I believe we are good to go release a new version of Node add-on API.
Okay, cool. Sounds good.
Cool.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So if I approve that, it will go through.
And no, we will have to land it manually anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, just like a normal code. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all the pending items that we have. Okay, great. Before we clean out, any issues that people would like to bring up?
No.
Nope.
All right. Thank you
Good
for
week.
all your good work, and I'll see you on GitHub. And yeah, have a good
See you.
weekend.
Have a
See
good
you.
Bye.
one. Bye.